All right.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Ira, and you are tuned into Black Tech Futures Media Weekly Chat. I am here with the coolest people I know. That's not all of them, but trust me, these are at least a couple of the coolest people I know. And that would be Jamil. Say hi to the people, Jamil.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in.
And that would also be my longtime friend, the Renaissance woman I know her to be, an amazing and awesome human being and fellow Aquarian who I love so much, Christine Barksdale.
Good morning. Hey.
So Christine has some particular insight. She's a Black art collector, and she's also a longtime owner of Diaspora and as well Sustainable Passion in Ithaca, New York. So check her out. She's real cool people. So today I want to welcome you back. And I also wanted to let you know that every week we're going to be discussing non-fungible tokens, digital art, creative economy, Black people becoming, you know, becoming more of a force in this particular space. There will be a point next week. I really want to get into the how-tos because I'm, setting up my wallet. I'm going through process of setting up and uploading an NFT that I'd love to drop. And part of this is really teaching other people how to, and actually not only teaching other people, but for the three of us now, because I've roped Christine into this, I can't stop talking about it at all hours of the day and night. Of course, it's Jamil's fault that I'm actually up all night. Case in point, up this morning till almost 3 o'clock, listening in to amazing things that are happening on Clubhouse. Former CEO of T-Mobile, John, last night gave away $25,000 to a gentleman, who, right, to a woman who was like, look, there's a guy I know and he's dying and he needs help. And this person pleaded their case, and quite literally, someone who was able to do something about it actually did. And this is this is what's actually happening on the Clubhouse platform. Amazing things, people actually making real, genuine connections and helping each other. And that's really what we're trying to do here as
Right.
well.
All right. Absolutely. Yeah. When we started last week, this first segment of the series, that was our whole intentions. We really want to kick this off by just letting you know about the world of NFT if you don't really know about it, and especially how it can really impact especially people of color like us. And we're just slowly going to get into it. Just to piggyback off of what Iris said, of course, we really want to dive into it by, getting onto these marketplaces that are just like popping up and seeing how minting works and really diving into making a NFT and putting it out on a marketplace. Your OpenSeas, your Rareables, your what is it, Nifty, or I know there's a few of them
Nifty
out there.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there. And so we want to just kind of just slowly roll it out and just introduce you to this just world-changing technology of NFTs. And we really want to bring it on artists like Christine and other people who really can just take this and run with it and not, and bridge that gap between art and economy, pretty much, where it's always been kind of a bridge there, where it's like, all right, how do we close that? And NFT is that answer. So definitely
Absolutely.
excited. Yeah.
And not only how we close it, but how does an NFT or non-fungible token, or in essence, a smart contract, impact the artist and enable the artist to remove, quite literally, the middleman.
Right.
And that's really what we're talking about here. What are your capabilities to be able to do that? What's happening in these futures that are enabling us, particularly with money, okay, being redefined. People are experimenting, obviously, with these tokens. There was a person, his screen handle last night is Kim. He's come up with a ring, right? So his focus is Africa, and his focus is third world countries where there may not be a lot of tech, right? So you don't necessarily have smartphones everywhere. But I know on the continent, right, there are smartphones.
Yeah.
So there are simple things, right? But this guy wants to create, or he is in the process of creating an actual ring. Inside of the ring, there will be technology that would enable a person to simply um, pound somebody. This is the funny part, right? Give somebody a pound and be able to transfer digital currency to that other individual, right? And so they're just figuring out, he's figuring out ways to make it possible that this concept of this decentralized finance will be able to get into places where technology might be a challenge, but something as simple as a ring, which could be created for less than 5.50 cents, maybe, could be able to be made and produced in mass and then given to people so that they could do this. And that's the other point, freely given, right?
Yeah.
No fees. And this is what we're talking about right here in the United States, right here in Hartford in particular, in other urban cities. How do we connect creatives to economy in ways that benefit the individual as and not necessarily the big corporations where people are not right there on the ground. You know, we're talking about people being able to feed their families in the end. Right.
Right.
Um, so what did I tell you, Christine? I said I wanted to talk about what there's so many people who paved the way for this idea,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah. It came out of the conversation. You mentioned Prince, and then we just started as normal instead of the 15-minute conversation, started talking for an hour about people who were precursors or who may have done what he did before. And then,
Yeah,
then the rabbit hole of how many people
yeah,
are doing that, right? Like
yeah,
are just sort
yeah.
of owning their music and their property and,
Right.
so yeah.
Or how many people, or let's talk about how many artists are not only owning, but also how many artists have gone through the crap.
Right.
We'll call it the crap or the shirt. We have ways of saying it for the PG audience. But
Right.
you get what I'm saying? Like
Right.
just the reality of having gone through the ridiculousness of the theft, right? In issues. And we're not only talking about Black artists who have fallen victim to white contract hold, right? You know, white people creating contracts, music contracts, record contracts, and
Right.
them signing it because it happens. It's happened in the industry and it perhaps continues to happen, but less because people are getting smarter. Man, listen, Eddie Griffin, the comedian, yesterday, if you go on YouTube and look for some NFT conversations with Eddie Griffin, this cat's all over it. Like I said last week, MC Hammer, all over it. In every room that I'm in where they're talking about NFTs, Hammer's there too, typically on stage, right? Um, but Chris, tell me some of, you guys tell me some of what you found out with these artists. I've got my own little list of a few, and I'm gonna take a second and look for this article that I really want folks to know about some things with one of the big music labels who made some realizations last year. But yeah, you guys talk to me about all of these artists who literally paved the way.
Yeah, so I actually thought initially I would look at people who were definitely before Prince, right? Like it was kind of because we started sort of talking about like Ma Rainey and just sort of this ownership of not only themselves, but like of
Yeah.
who they were. So of course, my favorite in terms of that particular group, and I realized too, it was a lot of men except for me, Aretha Franklin, right?
Yeah.
Like the queen
Yeah.
herself. And as I started reading more articles, everybody talked about the pocketbook and the fact that she like essentially was like, pay me
Yeah.
in cash, pay me before I perform. I'm gonna put the money in my pocketbook and I'm gonna take it on stage with me. And one of the articles I read, the person was like, yeah, and then they watched her go pay all of the band members and all the performers who worked with her after the performance in cash
Right.
from the pocketbook, because she got their money too. Like it wasn't just hers, which I hadn't even really thought about. Like she was like, no, you're going to pay me. And they said that that was one of the reasons maybe that she didn't make as much money as some other people. But I think for her, it was enough, right? Like she wasn't like, she was like, we're all going to eat. And that was something for me.
Beautiful.
Like that was, yeah. So that was that. And then I'll just skip over and go to my top one, of course, because it's my favorite artist of all time, and that's Stevie Wonder. Like,
Right
you
on.
know, that he just
Who's moving to Ghana?
yeah. Oh yeah, like taking advantage of that, you know, dual citizenship, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
so, but what's interesting about him for me is that he was 21 years old when he did that. Right? Like he was a baby because he signed initially, you know, Motown at 11. So so he basically was like, as soon as his contract, whatever, was over, and he was 21 and old enough to make a decision for himself, which means to me, he had been plotting this for a while. He was like, as soon as I'm 21. So I
It's
really,
going down.
yeah, like he just like owned everything, like just was like from this point on. And what was interesting for me about that was then his music changed, right? So I have every Stevie Wonder album pretty much. And the first things were kind of, you know, kid Motown-y. He's in his little, you know, bow tie and singing, you know, the fingertips and all that stuff. And then Talking Book came out, right? When he turned 21. That was, it was Talking Book, right? Like, you know, Music of My Mind, like, you know, fulfilling his personal, like all the things that really said something to me. And I think to a lot of other people, all the stuff that's sampled, right? So said something to subsequent generations. He did as soon as he had control of himself. And that was amazing to me.
Yeah.
You can hear it, like, because he wasn't allowed to do that before, right? Like he wasn't. Yeah. So that was like to me, and he had followed Marvin Gaye's example, because Marvin Gaye did the same thing. Because I don't know if y'all know the story, like of what's going on. Berry Gordy didn't like that and didn't want that done, right? And he had been, you hear the change that his music went to political afterwards. And so there's something about being able to do what you want to do, what's in your mind. And so it's more than just, okay, I get to own the masters I wrote. I realized people literally got to own themselves, like, their
voices,
So for me, that was so important and so enlightening, because you know, you can say, oh, that person owned their masters, but then you're like, oh, they own so much more about themselves. Like they, you know, like it, because it was a sharp change. Like if you think about, you know, and I think about the What's Going On album, my mother played that album over and over and over again, right? It came out in the 70s. Like she was playing it all the time. Those songs hold up. I think of things like Mercy, Mercy Me, where people are still listening to that music because it's still relevant and all that stuff. Like it was in his head all that time, but they didn't want it. Like I read something, it was like they had to sneak to actually release the first single.
Wow.
Berry Gordy he had his idea of what was what it was. And so, yeah. So
and so you say that, right? And what comes to mind immediately is Saturday on the 7th, when Steve Aoki dropped his own collection, right? The DJ, he's worked with many people like will.i.am, and I was in the room, right? And the reality, right? And I think they actually, the guys that were doing that actually, I think they actually created an NFT of all the people. Like they created an NFT. I hope, I know this was discussed, of the room on Clubhouse, right? So I feel like I was part of history. And yes, right, we're talking about these artists having the ability to release something,
Right.
being able to then get paid off of the digital version of that release into perpetuity.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're setting the price.
Yeah.
They're also setting the royalty price, right? So, the percentage. So every time whoever sells it, every time they get paid a percentage. And
Right.
that is one beautiful thing about this concept of smart contracts, which is your cue, Jamil. Tell me
Yeah.
about smart contracts, bro.
Smart contracts. So, to my understanding, and of course, I got to preface by saying I'm not an expert. This is
Right.
just
We're not trying to
me.
give you investment advice or anything like
Right,
that.
right,
We're
right,
sharing what we're learning,
right. We're
and the
on.
information's out there.
Absolutely. We're all on this journey, and we just want to invite you guys to come along with us and really dive into this new world. So pretty much the breakdown of a smart contract, which is what NFT is built off of. It's this concept of a self-executing contract. Where
Mhm.
before, or now, what we do when we make a deal with someone, whatever it is, whether it's through media, real estate, whatever it may be, when you deal with a contract, you need a whole team of people. There's
Right.
all these intermediaries of people and a mountain of paperwork to authenticate this, that, and a third to make sure you do this, I do this, and the fees associated with it, the lawyers that you got to get involved. There's so many people in between you and the other person that are trying to just make a deal, right? In
Right.
its most simplest terms, when we go back in time, what's a deal? It's I have something of value, you have something of value, and we want to trade, right? So
Right.
boom, here's a cow, give me some land, whatever it may, whatever it was. So now we're at this point where technology allowed us to just eliminate all of that middleman stuff.
Mhm.
And through written code, through technology that is just where there's no human error, it allows just for two people to say, hey, like, we're going to be protected through these self-executing contract, and we're protected, and it only has to deal with us two. And
Mhm.
that right there is just a huge game changer within itself. It sounds simple, and I know I'm just oversimplifying it, but
Yeah.
in
So
essence, yeah.
so this guy, Nick Szabo, a cryptographer, was credited in 94 for realizing that the decentralized ledger, which is the basis for blockchain, could be used to make what are called smart contracts or self-executing contracts, blockchain contracts, or digital contracts. The contracts could then be converted to computer code. The code could be stored, replicated on the system, and supervised by a network of computers that run the blockchain. Um, this could result in what they say ledger feedback, such as transferring money, receiving a product, receiving a service,
Yep. Yep.
etc. And so
Yep.
this is really what we're trying to point out to you, is that particularly in this episode, right? Prior to this type of opportunity, economic, we'll call it opportunity, creatives were in really awful, particularly musicians, right? And other people, right? We think about, for right now, I think about artists. And I was looking yesterday and I was like, wow, there are artists, and listening to this one thing about a 17-year-old who discovered NFTs, and she's just doing amazing stuff with it. And the reality that once someone actually says, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to do commissions. So what's beautiful is watching these artists go from and talk about, I had to do the commission so I could make enough money to do the thing I really wanted to do all that time, right? And in the same way with these musicians, over time, it's the same sensation. I have to make this music I don't necessarily feel great about, right? I'm not passionate about that creative spirit, whatever that is that moves through me, that then comes out of my face.
Right. That's the
To make,
creator's dilemma, right? The
yeah,
creator's
right.
dilemma, like,
I
especially when
gotta
you do
get
that full
paid.
time. Yeah, right, right, right,
I
right,
gotta get
right.
paid, and they want me to do this.
Right.
What I want to see is more of, I will be paid, and I need to do that, right? I had a couple of people for the industry. Let me say, one of them, well, are you gonna say Nipsey? I knew you were gonna say Nipsey, aren't
Well,
you, Jamil?
of course, but I was gonna bring up. I mean, because we spoke about him last time, so I don't want to, But
Yeah, right.
of course, that's always gonna be my number one. But um, I think of the bigger legacy, acts, like the Jay-Z's, like the
Mm-hmm.
Kanye Wests, like the people who, Wu-Tang Clan, like they already kind of did it,
Yes.
right? Wu-Tang Clan with that $1 million album that like no one heard,
Mm-hmm.
so they kind of did that already in a physical form. And of course
Yeah.
Mhm.
some dirtbag bought it, but like
Yeah.
but that idea is more so what I'm speaking on, of
Absolutely.
something so scarce, something so like this is the one of one. And
Mm-hmm.
now I can see that transitioning into this NFT world where you have someone like a Kanye West who's just making this beautiful project and is only making 10,000 copies,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. You got these
Yeah.
10,000 copies for $100, $50,
Right.
a thousand,
Right.
whatever it may be, right? And that's all
Right.
there is. It's not going to
Yeah.
be on Spotify. It's not going to be on iTunes. It's not. You're not going to hear it on radio, right? Whatever it may be, it's just for you. And so I can see, as for a next step, because already Kings of Leon, a really popular, indie rock band.
Mm.
They released an album that DJ 3 Lau or blah. I'm not sure how to
Blah.
blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course Steve Aoki. So it's already happening. But
Yeah.
in terms of like who I would love to see come out with something, man, because Kanye West is one of my favorite artists as well. Despite all the other stuff,
Despite
but
the
just
despite.
right, despite, just his music. I'm
Yeah.
just specifically talking about that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to
That's why
drop
I'm not
another,
talking about you, man. We'll talk about this later. But go ahead.
yeah, yeah. I was just trying to just keep it on that front. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I can absolutely see Jay-Z doing something in that
Absolutely.
space too,
Yeah.
doing that same type of format where
Mm-hmm.
he drops something and it's just very scarce for just, hardcore fans. But yeah, that's where I'm seeing like the next step right now. And then of
Yeah.
course, more artists that I would love to see that can just take full advantage of, like these independent artists, like who kind of paved that way, like Chance the Rappers,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
the Russes who just said, no, I want to be independent, all,
Yeah.
Right.
just distribute for me, whatever. I can start to see them saying, wait, NFT. Oh, okay, let's do this now. I
Yeah.
don't need nobody. I don't even need distribution. Just go to my
Right.
website or whatever and just go get it.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's coming and it's coming quick, and that's why we're here, because we just want to kind of put it in the forefront to get your gears going. Like, let's get this, because this concept it's so new. So, and we just want to get
Check
ahead
it.
of it. Yeah.
Check this out, man. Last June, guys, there was an article published by what is this? The Guardian, maybe? Yeah, the Guardian. BMG to review historic record contracts due to shameful treatment of Black artists.
Right.
So they're basically pledging to address historic inequalities in the record contracts of Black artists. All of this is discussed about mindful of the shameful treatment, would begin a review of historic record contracts, vowing to address, quote, inequities or anomalies within 30 days. So now I have to go back, right? 30
Right.
days was July,
Right. To see if they
the end
did
of
it.
July.
Right.
Yeah, let's see what they did. Because
Right.
this is a lot. How are you gonna do it? You know? So Kellis and Erica Badu said, quote, if the music industry wants to support Black lives, labels and platforms can start with amending contracts, distributing royalties, diversifying boardrooms, and retroactively paying back all the Black artists and their families they have built their empires on.
That's right.
And what we're talking about with regard to Black tech futures is quite literally, we ain't gotta worry about that anymore.
Right. That's eliminated.
And
Right.
we
Because it's
want to
already
show
happened. There's
you
been so
how.
much history.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
Yeah. There's been
That's
so much.
right.
I think of TLC,
Right.
where they made timeless music and made such an impact, and they got a Jeep. They got like nothing to show for
Yeah,
it,
it's crazy.
and it's
Icons,
wild.
man.
Right.
Yeah.
And like cultural and like nothing. I think of,
Yeah.
and then I think of kind of going back to like, the Stevie Wonders and the Marvin Gayes and like the people who already had the Ma Rainey's, who had this, it was a mentality first. And
Yeah.
then it spilled over to their business. I think of Sam Cooke, who understood this concept and said, no, ownership. Oh, this is how they make the money. Oh, it's not just through making a song. It's through having a label. It's through songwriting. It's through all these and it's incredible how rare it was then. And now it's like, okay, we're going to even out the playing field because technology is here. And that's a beautiful thing to like, that's a beautiful step forward for history. And people need to understand that past in order to know how important this is.
Yeah.
So especially for artists, because they're the ones that always get the, the bad end of the stick. So it's
and they're still getting caught up in it, right?
Oh, absolutely,
like artists
absolutely.
still, like are still being like, oh, you offering me all this money, okay. And they still don't understand the business part, and they're afraid. Like I had Chance the Rapper on my list, and you mentioned him because he was just like, I'm never doing that, right? Like, from the beginning.
Right. Even down to the contracts,
money.
Right, even down to the contracts, right? Where artists say, I can't even explain this. Why is this so hard to read?
So long form contracts,
and to where speakers like Joe Budden says, simplify the contracts. Why are they 30 pages? Make them 5 pages, something simple to read that the artist can understand, instead of saying, oh, we need to go get a lawyer. What happened with Meg Thee Stallion? They're giving her all this flack about getting a lawyer and getting a better it's like, what?
Right.
So you're trying to give her crap for looking over her contract and doing what she's supposed to do.
She's standing up for herself, right? Like,
it's a lot of these kids are saying, look, I'm 20 something years old. I don't have no lawyers at my beck and call. And the reality that the industry will get over if they can.
And then the industry, and what does the industry say? Oh, we'll give you a lawyer. We have a lawyer for you.
Right.
Wait, what?
Go see our friend over here.
Right. Don't worry about that.
We got you covered.
You can trust us.
Right. You can trust us.
Yeah.
So right there, all that muckiness, NFTs, smart contracts, it says no. We're not human. We have no, ulterior motives. It's just this. It's just exchange. That's it. That's all it is. Yeah.
So we're almost out of time, but a lot of people want to know how to learn more. What is it? Oh God.
Keep watching us.
I heard about a website. Again, it was like 2 something this morning. But what I would suggest you do is just type in NFTs or non-fungible, with a G, tokens or contracts or smart contracts, and sort of begin to understand conceptually what we're talking about here is being able to take a piece of taking a digital artwork, whether it's music or visual art, a video of a performance or anything, uploading it to right now an exchange, such as OpenSea, Rarity. There's like a list of maybe 14, 15 exchanges. They all do different things. We'll do an episode about that very soon.
Absolutely, yeah. We're gonna,
probably next week. We'll want to run them down. But from there, just do the stuff. Try it out. Play with it a little bit. We thank you for being with us. It's 9 o'clock. We're going to do this every week, 8:30 a.m. on Wednesdays. We'll do it live. We'll eventually invite all of you to start jumping on the lives with your comments and some of your own ideas and feedback.
Yes.
And we'd love to have you. If you need any assistance, Ira at managingdigitalprojects.com. We got my man, Jamil. You want to drop your email?
Yeah, you could just, if you want to get in contact with me, please reach out to the website, advidmedia.net. You can find me on social media, Jamil Ahmed. I'm easy to find. Come talk to me. Easy to talk to, come through.
Christine, please let folks know how they can reach you at Sustainable Passion in Ithaca, New York.
Sustainable Passion Boutique at Gmail. So
wonderful. All right. Great talking to you, everybody. Thank you for
Christine,
being here.
Thank you so much for being here.
It's nice to meet you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Peace.
Bye,
everyone.
All right.
Peace, peoples. Bye.